Things will not change until you do. Now, I know that's self-explanatory, right? That's pretty straightforward, common sense. But you'd be surprised how often a lot of us beat our heads against the wall and expect different results. We wonder why things don't change. We look to blame other sources, other outside forces, and things of that nature. And the reason for that is because a lot of us hit a wall when it comes to taking accountability, and we don't want to get started. We're scared of failure, or maybe just the thought of getting started sounds so difficult. It sounds like such a tall hill to climb that we'd rather kick back and say, you know what? Maybe if I just continue living, things will kind of work themselves out down the stretch. And then before you know it, another year passes and your situation is more or less the same. So I wanted to come on here and kind of just spitball with this because on my channel, obviously I play a lot of games, a lot of indie games and whatever else, but I also tend to have a lot of thoughts and things that involve what I've been through or what I'm currently going through, and I don't really have a place to express this. So I figure if you might have stumbled upon this video, maybe you can benefit from the message, or someone who can. But to the point, I have been in situations where I felt like there was no real way out, and I knew what it would take to overcome it, but just the thought of getting started seemed so daunting. And I had the tendency to forget how much life could change within a year's time. A lot of us expect a tectonic shift to happen and just overhaul everything we're currently doing. Maybe we'll just fall into some fortune. Maybe we'll get that promotion or that job that'll change everything. Or maybe someone will snap their fingers and put us in a mansion, or at least pay our rent or something. We're expecting something. Maybe you're expecting that FanDuel, that $1 25 leg parlay to net you six figures. We're always expecting something and looking for these monumental shifts with no work behind them. And while the tectonic shift would be nice, we have to remember that every bit of progress is progress, no matter how big or small. And sometimes it just starts with moving a pebble. Sometimes you can't just move a mountain. You have to move a small stone. And with that being said, a lot of it comes from first being honest with yourself. Understanding that everything that goes wrong isn't always somebody else's fault. And this is something that I had to battle with myself, something that I overcame a couple years back after looking at certain situations and realizing, man, I spent so much time blaming other people for my problems. I spent so much time feeling as though I've done enough, but then realizing that no major shift in my life has ever occurred without me first taking that first step. So if I'm not stepping, if I'm stagnant, if I'm complacent, and suddenly nothing happens, or my situation goes from okay to bad, or from bad to worse, then who can I really blame that on? I remember back when I graduated high school and I really wanted to get into a certain program. I didn't want to go to a traditional college. There was a certain career path that I wanted. And my family at the time, they didn't really understand it. They didn't support it as a result because they felt like, the traditional old people that think that college is just the one true route to getting shit done. And the fact that I didn't just want to go to a traditional university meant that I was throwing my life away. And this is something that I'm glad that we're kind of moving away from as time progresses, because our parents simply did not understand what the world was becoming. They never figured that people could sit in front of their computer, play video games, and make money. That was just illogical. So I'm older, I'm in my 30s now, and this was back in 2008. And for years, I said to myself, oh man, the reason why I'm not where I want to be is because, you know, my mom didn't support me at this time. And granted, you know, that does have some merit. But after a while, I looked at the calendar and said, okay, I'm talking about something that happened in 2008. It's now 2018. And I'm still leaning towards something that happened a decade prior as to why I haven't gotten up off of my ass after being out and about, out the house for a very long time, you know, being a functional adult. I looked at that and said, well, hey, this is why I'm not rich. When I had ample opportunity to pivot into a different direction. I had plenty of time where I was staying on the game till 3 a.m. playing Black Ops 2 and all these other things, which, you know, I needed at the time. It was fun at the time, but to sit here and act like I don't have time for these things that are more productive, that's what I should have been looking toward, because this isn't my first YouTube channel. And that's the reason why I'm also being very transparent on this one, because in my history of channels that I've had going all the way back to 2009 or so, I would always start and I would always stop and find different reasons to quit, give up, and say, hey, well, this was a group channel, it's not my vision. And then I have a channel that's my own and say, hey, well, I got pigeonholed into making this kind of content. I don't want to make that kind of content anymore. And instead of just going through the ringer and trying to just kick down the door, I would just abandon the channel. And so when I made this channel, I said, hey, if people watch this stuff, great. If they don't, it is what it is, because at the end of the day, I truly just enjoy making videos. But to the point, had I stayed consistent on one of those channels that I had going back to 2014, where I actually saw my first video crack 100K, who knows where I could be now. So understanding where the blame lied with a lot of these things helped me reach a point where I was able to correct a lot of things in my life moving forward. Course correction is very important. And I think we all know somebody, or maybe we are this person, somebody who has the tendency to just always be in the struggle, to never really have good stuff going on. And when it does happen, it's always brief and the story always turns out the same. Sorry if I'm stuttering and stammering, you know, there's no script, I'm just speaking. But we all know that person, and anytime you ask them, you know, what happened, what went wrong with this, or what happened with that, the explanation is always involving people on the outside. Always. It's never them saying, well, you know what, I'm just fucking lazy, or I kind of just suck, or I squandered that opportunity because, you know, I didn't give it my best. It's never that. The moment you step away from being that person and admit to what role you play is the moment you'll start to find yourself in a position of rebuilding. Because starting over sounds like hard work, but it's not impossible. And sometimes a fresh start, a genuine fresh start, is all we need. It doesn't make sense to keep coasting by doing the same things over and over, because you're only buying yourself, you know, temporary satisfaction, or delaying the inevitable, in other words. So that's really all I wanted to say on this video. You know, there are so many more things that we can be doing if we just take the time to, as cliche as it sounds, just believe in ourselves. But that belief will always be in vain if you don't first keep it real with yourself before anybody else, before you concern yourself with what friends may think, with what family may think. Anybody who's really in your corner is going to support you bettering yourself no matter what you do. So sometimes you have to take a step back, you know, kind of recalibrate a little bit and do things your way. So that's all I wanted to say here. Hopefully, if you needed to hear this message, it found you and it helps you. Just move that first stone, man. Move that first stone, and let's see if you can get it to snowball into something greater.